Ready, set, hut, hut!
As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sound of gold and blue football.
Almost heaven, West Virginia.
Now let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 50, the 10, the 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it.
He did it. Patrick White. Touchdown, Tay Von Austin.
The Don Nehlen's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels fear to tread.
I think you think that these guys are going to fall over dead for you. Well, I got news for you. They're going to punch you right in the mouth. It's Mountaineer pride!
Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football. West Virginia football.
Leave no doubt tonight. They shouldn't have played the old Golden Boot. Not this night.
They've done it. They've done it. A perfect season. And the Mountaineers, for the first time in history, undefeated and untied.
Don Nehlen and his Mountaineers, for the second time, have finished a regular season with an unblemished mark.
Ain't no stopping the gold and blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into another live stream here on the Country Roads webcast, November 12th edition, as we get set to bring you some WVU football recruiting updates as West Virginia flips not one, but two commits that were previously committed to other programs to add to this ever-growing 2026 class, now up to 28 commitments in tow for the Mountaineers, and we'll update you on the two latest ones there as West Virginia makes two additions to the class. And want to talk for a second about the win over Colorado, as West Virginia has won 2 games in a row for the first time in 2025. We didn't get a chance to put out a review podcast for that game, so I want to talk, briefly share some thoughts from that game. And then, of course, at the tail end of the show, before we wrap up, I do want to throw in some thoughts on the basketball season thus far, as they're off to a 3-0 start. So a combo stream here, talk a little WVU football, both on the field, then recruiting for the future, and then, of course, we will talk a little bit of basketball at the tail end. Appreciate you guys tuning in here, whether you're watching live or on the playback. If you're in here live, got any questions, comments, throw them in there. I'll try and catch up on some of those before we wrap up as well. Either way, though, that you're tuning in, if you would just take a second, hit that thumbs up button, help me out with that crazy YouTube algorithm, helps us find more Mountaineer fans like yourself, and be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on this West Virginia recruiting class as we approach National Signing Day, just 2-3 weeks away now at this point. I think 3 weeks from signing day there at the beginning of December. So getting close to, seeing what this final class is going to look like. We're hoping to see it reach about 30, I think is what the staff had been saying was their goal. So getting close to that, and we'll see if we can keep all these names, maybe surprise and flip a couple. I know there's one big one that we're keeping our eye on, right? We'll see what happens with that, because that would be a program changer, and of course Kevin Brown. But that's what's on the docket for this one. Let's start with the recruiting update. So first here, let's pull up our CRW recruiting tracker. And of course, these are the 28 names now, of course, with the bottom 2 being the ones we're going to cover here in this stream, as West Virginia has built this class pretty solidly from way long ago all the way up until now, with some impressive recent commitments. And the 2 most recent ones here are flips from other programs, as West Virginia's added defensive back Mekhi Boone out of Ohio, and athlete Aiden Woods out of Virginia. So 2 commits from bordering states as well. Let's start off here with Boone. Let me pull up the first tweet I saw where this was announced, and we'll check out his profile on both the recruiting services there, 247 and on 3. So as you can see, a flip here for West Virginia. Alan True of 247 shared it. West Virginia flips Miami of Ohio, Miami University commit Mekhi Boone, who has had a really good senior season there, flipping from Miami now to West Virginia. And one of the top-rated players there in the state of Ohio, I believe a top 60 player, and of course some good football there coming out of that state, as we pull up his profile here on both the sites. And then we will highlight the other edition, which is interesting as well. But Mekhi Boone, 6 foot, 172 pounds there out of Lakewood, Ohio, St. Edward's High School. And we see their top 60 player in the state of Ohio, nearly a top 100 corner in the class, 3-star 86 grade. So pretty good grade there on a 3-star for Mekhi Boone as he flips from Miami to West Virginia. There's his 247 profile. Let's check him out here on On3/Rivals. I guess whatever you want to call it now is the 2R1 nowadays, right? But here he is listed 6 foot 175 as well. And similar rankings here, top 130, top 60 player in Ohio, 3-star 85 grade, approaching 86 there on Rivals for Mekhi Boone. So there's one addition there. West Virginia adds to the defensive side. And then how about West Virginia adding a player to the offensive side as well? And this one, interesting for multiple reasons, as we'll pull up his commitment announcement here. He said called home, tagging WVU, tagging Coach Bicknell, Coach Dressler, Coach Trickett, which is interesting because, those two of those three are offensive line coaches with Coach Dressler and Coach Bicknell, and Woods, listed as a tight end on one side, an athlete on the other, but West Virginia looks like it's going to try and develop him into an offensive tackle as they take Aiden Woods and flip him from the University of North Carolina, which I just think is interesting because you guys may remember last year West Virginia had a commitment that we covered as we covered the 2025 recruiting class, Aiden Buchanan on the offensive line, and on signing day, Aiden flipped to UNC, and now West Virginia takes a UNC commit named Aiden that plays offensive line and flips him to WVU in the next year's class. Just a weird coincidence there, but West Virginia looking to have developed Aiden Woods into an offensive lineman, it looks like. Let's pull up his profile on both sides. Like I said, I believe one lists him as a tight end, one lists him as an athlete. I listed him as an athlete on our CRW tracker for now, but do believe the plan is for him to play offensive line. As it is 247 that lists him as a tight end still, but you see the size there and why West Virginia feels like he could develop into a tackle. One, he has the athleticism because he's played tight end that you could need to play tackle there. Already has great size at 6'6", 255. Easy to see that frame getting up into the 300s as he comes in from Abingdon, Virginia, not too far from me where I'm at down here in Mercer County in West Virginia. 3-star 85 grade on him, one of the top 40 players in Virginia, nearly a top 100 tight end in the class according to 247 there on that service. Let's go to On3, who I think lists him as an athlete rather than a tight end. And they do still same size there, so you can see it's legit, the 6'6", 255 there for Aiden Woods, who previously was committed to North Carolina. 3-star 84 grade on Rivals, top 50 athlete in their recruiting services, and nearly a top 35 player in the state of Virginia. So good flip for West Virginia when you flip them from a power conference program at UNC and you get your lick back, so to speak, right, from last year when they flipped an offensive lineman away from us in the 2025 class. So one more time here, let's pull up the recruiting tracker to take a full look at the list here. Of course, the two we just highlighted there, the offensive lineman believed to be an Aiden Woods, 6'6", 255, but with Rich Rod's comments about wanting to have fullbacks, right, that we dropped a video on that earlier today, or be sure to check that out. It was late last night, one of the two, I can't remember, runs together anymore, but check that out here on the channel if you haven't already. Maybe Aiden Woods could fit that mold of the guy. He said, 250, 240 pounds. Can you imagine Aiden Woods coming down as a fullback, lining up in short yardage? That'd be nice. Has the capability, played tight end, but believe he's going to try and play tackle at West Virginia. We'll see. And then, of course, Mekhi Boone coming into the defensive backfield. They join the other names that we've covered here. If you want to learn more about any one of these, just check out their name here in the CRW recruiting playlist where we've highlighted each one of these. As they've committed to West Virginia, the class now up to 28 names there as I scroll through them on our CRW recruiting tracker. Continuing to cover this 2026 class in the lead up to signing day next month, which excited to see how that pans out for the Mountaineers. So wanted to talk about that. And then, of course, the one where, like I said, we're keeping an eye on is Kevin Brown. I'm sure you guys saw the picture floating around social media. I could probably pull it up here really quickly if I pull it up and search while I talk about it. But it seems like, leaning towards West Virginia right now. We know hasn't ever really officially decommitted from Penn State, but has been, visiting West Virginia on official capacity, an unofficial visit to Ohio State. His team's still playing in the high school playoffs, and in those high school playoffs, he posted this on Instagram, but you can see he's wearing West Virginia gloves, and the fact that he posted this on Instagram, which shout out to Jonathan Martin for sharing this on social media, but that says something, that not only did he wear them in the game, which would be a statement enough, but the fact that, hey, I'm going to post a picture of me holding them up and showing people I got these West Virginia gloves on. I think to me that definitely shows West Virginia is in the lead right now to possibly flip Kevin Brown, who would be one of the top 5 highest commitments West Virginia's ever picked up on the football side, if you want to know how big this would be, and an instant starter on the offensive line, which I think is huge because I think you need at least 2 starters on that right guard and right tackle spot. I think the left side, you might have something there, as I like, Nick Cray at left tackle, has him at left guard, and possibly Livingston at center as well. But Kevin Brown could fulfill the right guard or right tackle spot there on that offensive line for West Virginia right away. This is one of those program-changing offensive linemen. You're talking, Wyatt Milam, Zach Frazier level, but he grades out and, is rated even higher than either one of those two. And you see what they're doing, not only what they did at West Virginia, but what they're doing in the pros as well. So another big, huge get right here if West Virginia could get Kevin Brown. And, you're essentially winning a recruiting battle against Penn State and Ohio State if you get him as well, which is big in and of itself. So we're going to keep an eye on that one for sure. And there's some other players West Virginia trying to flip. Matt Sieg, they're kind of battling Pitt for him, who's a previous Penn State commit. I believe, a lot of teams recruiting him at safety. West Virginia maybe trying to sell him on the fact that they might let him play some offense as well, as West Virginia has been experimenting with some players playing on both sides of the football with, what we talked about with the fullback position, Rich saying they're working some guys on defense that maybe play that type of role. We've seen Curtis Jones come over and play on the offensive side, and so they're probably trying to sell Matt Sieg on that as well. And there's some others, Terry Wiggins, who I think is a linebacker recruit West Virginia's after. That was a previous Penn State commit, if I'm not mistaken. Some others we'll keep an eye on. And then there was a quarterback on a visit. He posted on social media. Joe Smith here posted this. He actually reached out to me as well, the quarterback Miles McEachin Jr., and asked me to share this, that he was in Morgantown for the WVU Colorado game visiting as well. Was at Liberty. He was down the depth chart a little bit there. Sat out this past season, finished his degree, has 3 years left. Would potentially be a good depth piece to add at quarterback. I think West Virginia has at least, one guy that they think can be their starter. Maybe they bring in someone to compete with him. Not saying Miles McEachin couldn't be that guy, but I think West Virginia will need to add multiple quarterbacks. Some of them will be more depth pieces, and some of them maybe brought in to try and compete with Scotty, who I think has earned the right to, be the incumbent starter next season, but we'll see what happens, because I think once, the portal opens up, West Virginia may only be left with, 2-3 quarterbacks on the roster, so you'll have to add a couple pieces, but there's one that's in the portal that West Virginia could potentially be going after. So there it is for the recruiting side of things. Other than that, I want to talk a little bit about the Colorado game, since, like I said, we didn't get to put out a chance to put out a review podcast, but had to mention it briefly. West Virginia wins 2 in a row, up to 2-5 in the Big 12, still keeping their bowl game hopes alive for now, as Rich Rod said and quoted Dumb and Dumber, which I love. So you're telling me there's a chance. 4-6 with 2 games left. Got to go on the road to Arizona State this week, which will be tough enough, and then even tougher matchup against what could potentially be close to a top 5 team in Texas Tech the next week to round out the regular season. But what we do have is West Virginia's offense finally finding ways to move the football, put drives together. We're seeing that hard edge mentality finally, show itself. We're seeing the team really fight in all of these games. And as I've said, after the last game, I think that's a big telling sign of this coaching staff getting this thing turned, already, despite everything they've had to deal with on the injury front, being way down the depth chart at multiple spots, still finding ways to compete and even win games. And now we're going to be on a 2-game win streak at this point in the season, when, 3-4 weeks ago, everyone was looking at the schedule like, well, no way we don't finish 2-10. That's an incredible job by this staff, and I think that just shows, the tip of the iceberg of what this can turn into, and in my opinion will turn into once they get this thing turned and get the pieces right and really get this thing rolling. But we're seeing a great end to the season that could build momentum towards the future on that. 21 first downs in the game for West Virginia, close to what Rich Rod wants at that 25 mark. You look, they win the total yardage battle again, not the greatest day of offense. It was a little bit more ugly than what you would have liked, especially in the second half. West Virginia got off to a big lead, but they led the entire game here against Colorado, which was big to see for the Mountaineers in this one. 202 yards passing, 167 yards rushing. What I like about that is that's one of the more balanced efforts we've seen from West Virginia this year as far as passing and running. Earlier in the season, they couldn't throw the football at all. We've seen a couple games where they had to rely on the pass because the run wasn't working, like against TCU when they had to throw for over 300 because they couldn't run for more than 40. Now we're seeing good effort from both sides and starting to see a little bit more balance. I'm starting to see what this could potentially look like moving forward. The negative in this game is, of course, they turned 2 turnovers. You had kind of eliminated those in the previous 2 games. But in my opinion, they all weren't that damaging. The first one was on a 4th down where, if you don't get it, you're turning the ball over anyways. And at least with throwing the ball downfield, you kind of net yourself some yards, almost as if like an arm punt type deal, right? And then the very next play on the next drive, the subsequent drive after that, the ball got tipped. So, can't really put that one on Scotty. So I don't think that it's necessarily you seeing those freshman mistakes pop back up that we saw early in the season, as more as just it was a little bit of misfortune. I thought Scotty was still decisive, looked in control, and just appears like a veteran. It's just hard to believe that guy's a true freshman with his demeanor, how in control of the team that he feels right now. And, I feel confident with him behind center that he's going to keep us in most games and have us battling, moving forward even down the stretch here. I think the most impressive stat here as far as the defense is concerned is holding Colorado to 51 yards rushing, nearly only 1 yards per carry, 1.3, super impressive. Our defense was attacking, and that's the defense effort that we wanted to see. That's what we saw in like the first 3 games of the season, and then throughout the losing streak, it wasn't there. When I went over the player grades for channel members earlier today, the one thing that stood out as far as team grades were concerned was not only was this your highest offensive grade of the season, but it was also your best coverage grade of the season. And I think a big reason why is because you were really getting after the passer there at Colorado, putting pressure on him. You had 15 TFLs and 7 sacks, which are just incredible numbers. And if you can continue to do that, that's going to give you a chance, in these games here moving forward, because we're seeing here in these past couple of games, what we thought we'd see early in the season when the defense was looking good and the offense couldn't get it going. Now we've seen, games where they both kind of helped each other out, a little bit of complementary football, if you will, here down the stretch for the Mountaineers. I like limiting the penalties. I thought tackling was better in this game. As we pull up the individual stats really quickly, I think you saw some guys that you hadn't seen yet get involved, like as we go to receiving, Christian Hamilton, who's a guy that can help you in the future. Glad to see him start to get involved. 2 catches, 25 yards for the Mountaineers there. I think those came in the first half. Of course, we talked about Curtis Jones at running back. That story's been well talked about. But you just start to look at who's contributing on this roster, and you see on the offensive side, especially guys that are going to be returning. I talked about the offensive line and who can come back. But Scotty Fox is a freshman. Dewar Hubbard is a freshman. Big 12 freshman of the week. Matter of fact, after this performance where, averaged 4 yards per carry, 16 carries, 64 yards, and led the team in receiving, 6 catches, 94 yards with a vintage Rich Rod wheel route, looking like, Pat White to Steve Slayton, the 06 Pitt game on that one. And an excellent throw by Scotty Fox. Rich Rod talked about that on his coach's show, how that's a next level throw from one hash all the way down the field and hitting him in stride like that. And of course, Scotty doing what he has to in the run game as well. 58 yards rushing, over 3 yards per carry for him. I'm just waiting for him to have a game where he explodes in the run game for over 100 rushing yards as well. He's been, close to that. We've seen him really be able to orchestrate this offense when the run game hasn't been there. He's hit the passes that West Virginia has needed, over 200 yards in this one. We've seen him have a 300-yard game. He's now West Virginia's season leader in passing yards. As you guys probably saw some of the videos and pictures I put out on social media talking about that from the game. But I thought, of course, when you talk about this, you got to talk about the atmosphere was great. Over 55,000 there. I was in the box for most of the game, but when I went down to the field there for the end, it was absolutely rocking as West Virginia tried to close that one out. And what I love about how they were able to close it out is just running the football down the field. One of the videos I put out was just Dewar Hubbard sealing the deal with a 3-yard run. And, even the drive before that, Curtis Jones converting on a 3rd down and short, and then next play giving it to him again, and he gets into the end zone. West Virginia kind of exerting their will late, and that's that conditioning that you're going to see from a Rich Rod team. That's that hard edge mentality and stuff that's going to give you that edge late in some close games, which if West Virginia can keep these games close, that's why you like their chances late in some of these games, as we saw in this one. And then defensively, of course, shout out Ryan Ward. As I got sidetracked there, I want to talk about some of the freshmen. Scotty Fox, Dewar Hubbard, who was Big 12 Freshman of the Week. Ryan Ward as well had his first career touchdown reception in this game. That's a freshman tight end that's going to be a huge piece moving forward. I mentioned Christian Hamilton, who's a sophomore that's going to come back. Cam Vaughn's a sophomore that's going to come back. Sincere Bowers is a sophomore that's going to come back. So you look at some of the guys contributing on the offense. Rodney Gallagher's going to come back. So that's big to see here. Moving down the line when you're playing some of your best football with guys that you can potentially retain, and then you add some pieces there to add into that rotation to give you some depth, and you're starting to see, okay, we're going to be all right next year. It's not going to be a total rebuild like this year was. We got some pieces to build around on both sides of the football. Defensively, Ben Bogle, he can come back at linebacker. 2 sacks in this game, 2 TFLs, was wreaking havoc. Wish we could have Fred Perry back, but I think Ben Bogle is going to be good at the linebacker position. Ben Cutter is going to be back at the linebacker position. He had a sack in the TFL. He recovered the onside kick that closed the game. So, you like to see that. You do have to, hope that some of the young corners either develop or you go out and get some guys because, all the guys that you brought in here that are helping you in the secondary at the corner position are seniors with Chambers, Scruggs, and Coates. But you do have, younger guys at safety with like Israel Boyce, who's young, has multiple years left to come back. Marshawn Oxley can return at the bandit spot. Chris Filippo at nickel actually got to get his first career start in this game because of the issue with Fred Perry's knee brace. He could come back. So you do see some guys on defense that can even contribute. Corey McIntyre Jr. still young. Moving forward, Nick Taylor can return. He's played some key snaps this year for West Virginia. Nate Gabriel is young. Sonny Redwood can come back. So you do see guys that can contribute and are younger guys with multiple years remaining that are going to help you down the stretch. But what I love most is just the fight that this team has shown late in games to get it done here, to get this 2-game win streak rolling, and you can tell that, hey, they want to fight for bowl eligibility, and I think they're going to go out and give Arizona State all they can handle, and we'll see what happens. And if you win that one, then if nothing else, it should set up a fun atmosphere, despite it being, Thanksgiving week, because I think they are doing some type of program to give, the student seats away to, regular fans. I think it's called like Maniac for a Day, if you want to look that up. You can sit in the student section because a lot of those guys are going to be off campus with it being Thanksgiving week, so maybe that'll still improve the atmosphere, especially if you go get a win at Arizona State, and then you're fighting for bowl eligibility on senior day against a team that's maybe, near top 5 in the country. It could be a lot of fun, and I think that that's what we see here, with the fans still balled in, the 50,000 plus at the game, and just there's a really positive feel around the program right now, in my opinion, that hasn't been there for a while, and it feels like kind of the turning of the tide, in my personal opinion, and I'm excited to see what the future holds in the Rich Rod 2.0 era. Despite the fact that we're 4-6, I'm kind of satisfied with the turnaround that we've seen in the past 2 games. Not that I don't want to reach a bowl game, but that's just the cherry on top if they find a way to win these final 2, because I think they've impressed me enough staff-wise. So there's my thoughts on the football game. I wanted to touch on a little bit there. But, of course, going to hit on basketball, then I'll hit on some of your all's comments before we wrap up here, because the Ross Hodge era is also off to a 3-0 undefeated start right now. So things looking up for the basketball team, especially after a bit better performance, I think, on the glass against Lehigh. That was my concern in the first 2 games, was the rebounding. And, I've been trying to calm people by saying, hey, Jackson Fields is going to help a lot with the rebounding when he returns. Chance Moore can help a lot as well. So, you haven't really seen the team at its fullest yet. I think we've also been missing shots that I think we'll make later throughout the season. But all that matters is you're winning, and now you got the big one tomorrow, the Backyard Brawl, the first real test on Fox Sports 1 at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Pitt and WVU going at it in the basket brawl, the Backyard Brawl there on the basketball side. But West Virginia 70-54 over Mount St. Mary's. Floyd with 25, was impressed by his performance in that game. Lorient has been probably my personal favorite player to watch this season. He's been super impressive. 13 rebounds in that game for him. And then, let me see the high end assists. I'm going to have to zoom out here a little bit, I do believe. Floyd with 4 assists in that game to lead the team as well. As you see, Floyd nearly leading the team in assists in every game, but Belo, Lorient in there against Campbell with 9 rebounds and 4 assists led the team. And then we saw Huff with 23, probably more of what we'll see from him throughout the rest of the season. But Lorient, maybe his most impressive performance was against Lehigh, career high 26 points. Getting involved there, having to kind of lead the team in scoring. Some of the other guys a little bit colder in that one. And I would love for the game against Pitt to be the game where West Virginia really gets it going offensively as they get set to battle the Pittsburgh Panthers here, who are also 3-0, wins over Youngstown State, Longwood, and Eastern Michigan. You see their season leaders, Cameron Corrin, 15 points and 10 rebounds. There'll be a good matchup with him and Belo down low. Minor will be a good matchup with Floyd and our guards there as well. So excited to see some of those matchups, as Pitt does have 3 guys averaging double figures with Brandon Cummings at guard, Minor at guard, and Corrin, the big man there for the Panthers. And then, of course, the Mountaineers leaders on the season thus far. Belo leads in points and rebounds, so like I said, that matchup's going to be fun between him and Corrin. 16 for Belo on the season in points and nearly 10 rebounds per game, so nearly averaging a double-double. 4 assists per game for Jasper, 2 steals for Honor, and 2 steals for Belo. Still small sample size through 3 games, but West Virginia also 3 guys averaging double figures with Jasper, Honor, and Belo. I think what we're hoping to see is Eagle staff start to get that scoring up a little bit, and I think that's going to come along. He's just adjusting to, to jump up and play to the power conference level, in my opinion, but he can score it against power conference teams. He's shown that with what he did against Alabama last season. I think he's going to come into his own. And if you get a night where Eagle Staff's hitting shots, Huff's hitting shots, and you got B-Low down low doing his thing, that could be the recipe for success, and that would be awesome if it comes against Pitt there in the Hope Coliseum in the basketball backyard brawl tomorrow. Of course, I'm picking the Mountaineers to win it. I think West Virginia finds a way to win it by 5 to 8 points. It's my bold prediction on this one, hoping for it. No way I'd ever pick Pitt. Eat shit Pitt always, right? So excited about that one tomorrow. Excited about the start of the basketball season here in the start to the Ross Hodge era. Excited about the way the football season is ending. Playing our best football in the month of November is such a positive sign with everything we've had to endure. That this team is being able to do that still yet shows you what could happen in the future. So we're excited to see that. And, of course, the recruiting classes we're talking about as well get you really hyped up for the potential players that could contribute to that future on the football side. So that's what I had, guys. But get some of your all's comments here, and then we will call it a show. Appreciate you guys tuning into this one, whether you're watching this live or after the fact on a playback. Either way, hit that thumbs up button. Help us out. Be sure you subscribe to the channel. That doesn't cost you anything. But if you do want to help us out in that way, Super Chat's always welcome during the live streams. That gets your comment read guaranteed. And then, of course, you can contribute monthly by hitting the join button down below on the video description or on the YouTube channel homepage. With that, you're going to get a ton of bonus content like player grades after each WVU football game, snap counts, film reviews, monthly members-only streams will be starting back up after the first of the year as well. We do some game commentaries throughout the offseason. You get priority access in comments. You get custom emojis, custom helmet badges, WVU helmet badges as well. So a lot of fun stuff there available for channel members, and they help keep this mic recording, that camera rolling. But that's what I had. Let me get to some of your all's comments in this one, and then we'll call it a show here for the November 12th live stream as we've talked WVU recruiting and WVU football and hoops. WVU fan 23 said, or he's just teasing about coming to WVU. Hope that's not the case. Yeah, I don't think he would troll us like that, especially being, a legacy his dad having played there. I think he has a lot of reverence for us. I think that hopefully it's just him, saying, hey, you guys are the favorite right now. And, that would be pretty bad if it was a troll job. I feel like it's definitely the former of him, saying, hey, this is number one right now. And he said as much, I think, when he's come out and been asked about it, that West Virginia is in the lead right now. I think his quote, to paraphrase a little bit, was, they have the best facilities and the best coaches, I think is what he said, which is a bold statement. And you love to hear that with us going up against Blue Bloods battling for him. Drumwolf said there needs to be a way to lock players in NIL so they can't jump around from team to team. I think Rich Rod mentioned that they're going to start that they're doing either 1 year or 2 year deals at WVU. So I guess in that aspect, it will, essentially lock you in for some period of time. And I'm sure a lot of teams are going to start doing that now in the rev share era moving forward, for sure. I think so. Drumwolf said that same run defense will be needed against ASU this week. That's what gives you a little bit of hope, right? Is the fact that without Sam Levitt, Jeff Sims more of a running quarterback, but he is dangerous. Over 200 some rushing yards, set the Arizona State record. They put his jersey in their, Hall of Traditions or whatever they call it there at Arizona State after that game to get them the win after Levitt went out and is out for the rest of the season. And if Jordan Tyson, the receiver, remains out, which sounds like a chance he might be, we'll see what happens. West Virginia will need to definitely bring great run defense and try and force them to throw the football without their best receiver and a quarterback that would rather run it. So, the run defense is a good sign for hopefully this week, that hopefully that carries to the road for West Virginia. Excited to talk about that game. We'll be releasing our Arizona State preview podcast here over the next couple of days as well, as we look forward to that game. Good to see you, Mountaineer, with Kenny. And Eric Flowers said, you say WVU to win by 5 to 80? Hey, we'll go with that. Since it's Pitt, we'll go with that. I meant 5 to 8. I may have said 5 to 80. Sometimes I do misspeak on here. So yeah, it's possible I said it, but 5 to 80 sounds better since it's Pitt anyways, right? Eat shit Pitt. So, but I appreciate you always, Eric, one of our channel members there. You see him with the custom badge there in the chat, and appreciate all our channel members that get that bonus content as well. And appreciate getting a chance to chat with you guys here on the main channel about some WVU football recruiting, WVU basketball, and some WVU football topics. But that'll pretty much do it for this live stream. Plenty more to chat about here in the near future with both sports running simultaneously. No better time to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on what's going on throughout the WVU sports world here with us on the Country Roads webcast. That being said, I appreciate you guys tuning in this one. Hope you guys have a great day and great rest of your week. And as always, let's go Mountaineers.